It was a quiet evening in the city. The sun had just set, painting the sky in soft orange and purple. In a large, beautiful mansion on the hill, the millionaire woman, Clara, was driving back home. She had finished her meeting early, much earlier than she expected. The streets were calm, almost empty, and the lights of the city sparkled in the distance. Clara loved her home. It was big, luxurious, and spotless. She had everything she wanted: money, comfort, and success. But tonight, something felt different. A small, strange feeling tugged at her mind. She could not explain it. It was as if the house was calling her. She parked her car and walked through the tall, polished doors. Everything looked normal. The hallway was clean, the chandelier sparkled, and the soft hum of music filled the air. But as she moved closer to the kitchen, she heard something unusual. A sound came from the basement. It was quiet at first, almost like a whisper, but then it grew louder, scraping, moving, humming. Clara froze. She did not expect anyone to be there. The mansion was usually empty at this hour. She frowned. Who could it be? Curiosity mixed with caution. Clara slowly walked toward the basement door. The sound was clearer now. It was a soft humming, almost like a song, but strange too. She opened the door just a little and peeked inside. At first, she could not see clearly. Then her eyes adjusted to the dim light. She saw him. A black janitor working quietly in the corner. His movements were unusual, careful, deliberate, almost precise. He was cleaning, yes, but not in the normal way. Clara's heart beat faster. She had seen janitors before, but something about this man was different. He moved with focus, arranging things in a certain order. He hummed softly, and every now and then, he paused and looked at something with a strange intensity. "Hello?" Clara said, her voice shaking slightly. The janitor did not turn. He continued his work, moving carefully around a stack of old boxes. He seemed unaware of her presence. Clara stepped inside, her curiosity stronger than her caution. She walked quietly down the steps, trying not to make a sound. The closer she got, the more she noticed. The basement was filled with items that did not belong in a cleaning space: old photographs, letters, small trinkets, and a tiny locked box. Her mind raced. Why would a janitor be interested in these things? Why was he handling them with such care? Something about the way he worked seemed important. She could not take her eyes off him. As she watched, she realized that this man was not just cleaning. He was doing something bigger, something secret. His hands moved quickly but gently, placing each item exactly where it should be. His eyes, though focused, sometimes drifted to the shadows, as if he expected someone or something to appear. Clara felt a chill. She had never seen anyone so calm, so confident, and so mysterious at the same time. She wanted to ask him to stop, but a strange force held her back. She needed to see what he was doing. Then, without warning, he paused. He turned his head slightly, not fully, but enough to make her feel his awareness. And in that instant, Clara understood something. This was no ordinary janitor. Something in his eyes, his posture, and the way he worked told her that this man had a story that could change everything. Her curiosity turned into fascination. She took a deep breath, deciding she would watch for a while. She could not leave now. Something was about to happen in this quiet basement, and she knew, deep in her heart, that she was about to witness something extraordinary. And as she stood there, in the soft glow of the basement light, she whispered to herself, "What are you doing?" But the janitor only continued, humming, moving, working completely unaware that the millionaire's life was about to change forever. Clara stood at the top of the basement stairs, her heart still racing. The humming of the janitor filled the room, steady and calm, but something about it now felt intentional. She couldn't take her eyes off him. Every move he made seemed measured, precise, almost like he was following a secret rhythm only he understood. Curiosity got the better of her. She stepped quietly closer, trying to see exactly what he was doing. That's when she noticed it. He wasn't just cleaning. On the dusty floor lay a scattering of items, old photographs of people she had never seen. Letters with faded ink, small trinkets, and a tiny locked box. But it was not random. The janitor was arranging them in a pattern, lines, circles, almost like a map. He moved each piece carefully, checking the placement, adjusting slightly, then stepping back to observe. Clara's pulse quickened. Why would a janitor do this? She leaned closer, her curiosity now mixed with a strange unease. The photographs were old, black and white, and some had markings on the corners. The letters were folded in careful shapes as if hiding secret messages. And the box? The small wooden box seemed ordinary at first, but it had intricate carvings she had never noticed before. The janitor paused suddenly. Clara froze. His head tilted slightly, and for a moment, he looked straight at a corner of the room, though no one was there. It was as if he could sense things beyond the visible. Then he returned to his task, moving with even more precision. Something about the way he worked told Clara that he was not ordinary. There was intelligence, experience, even skill in every move. This was more than cleaning. This was planning. Clara crouched behind a support beam, careful not to make a sound. She watched as he pulled out a small notebook from his pocket. Quickly, he scribbled something, glanced at the arrangement of items, and nodded to himself. It was a strange ritual, almost meditative, but there was urgency in it. Her mind raced with questions. What was he planning? Who were these people in the photographs? What secrets did the letters hold? And why was he doing all this in her basement? Then she noticed a pattern she hadn't seen before. Some of the photographs were connected with tiny strings, forming lines between faces, almost like he was creating a web of relationships. Clara could see names faintly written in pencil next to them. The letters were folded in a way that made her think they contained instructions or hidden messages. A chill ran down her spine. It was as if the janitor was piecing together a story that she was not meant to understand. Yet, she couldn't look away. Suddenly, a creaking sound echoed from the far end of the basement. Clara held her breath. The janitor didn't flinch. He continued moving the items as though the sound was part of his world, not hers. Clara's heart pounded. Something told her that whatever he was doing, it was delicate, important, and possibly dangerous if interrupted. She realized she was not just a witness, she was intruding into something private, something powerful. But her fascination grew stronger. Every glance at the janitor revealed a man who carried secrets with calm confidence. She had never met anyone like him. Then, without warning, he stopped completely. The basement went quiet, except for his soft humming that seemed to fade into silence. Clara leaned closer, squinting, trying to understand the next move. The janitor slowly opened the small locked box. Clara gasped silently. She could not see the contents clearly yet, but the way he handled it with reverence, care, and focus told her it was more than ordinary. The box held the key to something extraordinary, something life-changing. Clara's mind was spinning with possibilities. Who was this man? And why did he keep this in her basement? Then he looked up. For the first time, his eyes met hers, not with surprise, not with anger, but with calm awareness, as if he had been expecting her all along. And in that gaze, Clara felt it, the beginning of a secret she was about to uncover. One that could change everything she thought she knew about life, success, and herself. And just like that, the room seemed heavier, the air thicker, and the hum of his voice deeper, as if the basement itself was holding its breath. Clara knew one thing for sure. Tonight, nothing would ever be the same again. Clara's heart was still pounding as she watched the janitor carefully lift the small wooden box from the basement floor. Every movement he made was precise, deliberate, almost like he was performing a delicate ritual. The hum that had filled the basement earlier now faded into a near silence, as if even the air was waiting for what would come next. She stepped slightly closer, her curiosity stronger than ever. Something about this man fascinated her. He wasn't just a janitor, he was different. There was skill in his hands, intelligence in the way he moved, and a calmness that seemed almost unnatural. She could not take her eyes off him. The janitor placed the box on the floor and opened it slowly. Inside were small items, carefully arranged: an old compass, a folded piece of paper, and several tiny tools she didn't recognize. Clara leaned in, her mind racing. She could not understand why these objects were in her basement or why he was so focused on them. Then she noticed it. The janitor was not just handling the items, he was creating something. Using the photographs, letters, and objects from the basement floor, he started drawing shapes on the paper, connecting dots, mapping lines, almost like building a plan. Each move was intentional, thoughtful, and complex. Clara's jaw dropped. She had never seen anyone do something like this. It was not just cleaning, it was strategy, precision, intelligence. The patterns he drew were intricate, almost like he was planning a mission. She realized that the janitor's skill went far beyond what she had imagined. Her mind raced with questions. Who was this man? How did he learn these skills? And why was he using them in her basement? As she watched, he pulled out a small magnifying glass and studied the tiny lines and symbols he had drawn. He adjusted them slightly, erased a mark here and there, and nodded to himself, satisfied. Clara was mesmerized. This was no ordinary man. This was someone with a hidden talent, a mind capable of incredible precision and intelligence. Suddenly, the janitor stopped. Clara froze. He looked around the basement as if listening for something only he could hear. Then he spoke softly, in a voice calm and confident, but low enough that Clara barely heard. Everything must be perfect. One mistake and it all falls apart. Clara shivered. His words were simple, but they carried weight. Whatever he was doing, it was important, critical even. She felt a strange mixture of fear and awe. The janitor then picked up the compass and carefully measured a line, from one photograph to another. He was mapping connections between people, places, and events in a way that made sense only to him. Clara realized that the letters and notes she had seen earlier were part of this larger plan. Every detail mattered. Every item had a purpose. She wanted to ask questions, to speak, to understand, but she felt she should not interrupt. This was his world, his process. Instead, she watched, silent, captivated by the sheer precision and intelligence he displayed. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, Clara could not tell. The janitor moved with focus, calm, and confidence. And then, just as suddenly as he had started, he stopped. He folded the paper carefully and placed it back in the wooden box. Clara realized she had been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly. Her mind was racing with thoughts. This man, this janitor, had a mind far beyond what she could imagine. He had talents, secrets, and skills that no one in her world had ever seen. And then he looked at her. This time, his gaze was direct, steady, and almost knowing. Clara felt a chill. It was as if he had expected her to see this, as if he had known she would be watching all along. In that moment, she understood something clearly. This was not just a man cleaning a basement. This was a man who had purpose, intelligence, and hidden abilities. And whatever was coming next, it would change everything for her. Clara took a step back, her curiosity stronger than ever, knowing that the real mystery had just begun, and that the janitor's unseen talent was only the beginning of a story she could never have imagined. Clara's eyes were fixed on the janitor as he carefully closed the small wooden box. The basement was quiet now, but the air felt heavier, charged with something she could not explain. She had watched him move, organize, and plan, and with every passing minute, she understood that he was no ordinary janitor. Something about him was extraordinary. Curiosity got the better of her. She stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I see what's inside?" The janitor looked at her, not with anger or surprise, but with calm understanding. He slowly opened the box again. Inside were items that seemed simple at first: the compass, folded notes, tiny tools, and some letters. But Clara noticed a subtle glow around a few objects, something unusual, almost magnetic. She leaned closer, careful not to touch them. He picked up one of the letters and handed it to her. It was a simple note, neatly written, with a few lines that made her heart skip. "The world is bigger than you think. Some doors open only when you are ready to see the truth." Clara's eyes widened. She looked at him, confused. What truth? She asked. The janitor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved with precision, placing photographs, letters, and small items in a new arrangement. As he worked, Clara noticed connections. She had not seen before: lines between names, small symbols, and even dates. Everything seemed to tell a story. She realized with a sudden rush of understanding that he was not just cleaning, not just arranging objects. He was revealing a hidden life, a life full of talent, knowledge, and intelligence. And for some reason, he had chosen her basement as the place to share it. Clara felt her mind racing. She had always believed that success was about money, power, and control. But watching this man, she saw a different kind of power, one that came from skill, knowledge, patience, and insight. And suddenly, she felt small, limited, and unaware of what true potential could look like. The janitor handed her the compass next. "Measure carefully," he said softly. His voice was calm but carried weight, authority. Clara followed his instruction. As she traced lines between the photographs and symbols, she began to see a pattern, a story that was invisible before. It was more than a connection between people. It was a connection between ideas, actions, and possibilities. The way he had arranged the letters and objects was like a secret map of life, success, and opportunity. Clara felt a mix of awe, fear, and fascination. She had stumbled into something that could change her forever, and then came the moment that stunned her completely. The janitor opened the small locked box one last time. Inside was a folded piece of paper that radiated importance. He handed it to her, and as she unfolded it, she realized it was more than a note. It was a plan, a guide, almost like a blueprint for a different life. Her hands trembled as she read the words. The lines were simple, but the meaning was profound. He had mapped out lessons, paths, and choices that could transform someone who was willing to see, learn, and act. Clara felt a wave of clarity, something she had never experienced before. You've been showing me all this?" she asked, her voice shaking. The janitor nodded, smiling faintly. "Not showing, guiding. You must choose to understand it yourself." Clara realized in that instant that her life had changed. She had entered the basement as a wealthy, successful woman, but she was leaving with something far more valuable: awareness, understanding, and the beginning of a transformation. Her heart pounded, and a thrill of excitement ran through her. She had always thought she controlled her life, but now she knew there was so much more she had never seen. The janitor, quietly working in the shadows, had opened a door she didn't even know existed, and as she looked at him, calm, composed, and full of secrets, she understood one truth: sometimes, the people you least expect, the ones who seem ordinary, hold the power to change your life forever. Clara took a deep breath, folding the paper carefully. She knew that tonight was just the beginning, and that whatever lay ahead would challenge everything she believed. And somewhere deep in the basement, the janitor smiled softly, knowing that the first step of her transformation had already begun. Clara held the folded paper in her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. Every word, every symbol, seemed alive, guiding her towards something she could not yet fully understand. The basement felt different now, almost sacred, as if it had transformed. into a place where secrets revealed themselves to those willing to see. The janitor watched her silently, his calm eyes following every movement. Then he spoke, his voice soft but commanding. "Now it is your turn." Clara froze. "My turn? What do you mean?" He did not answer immediately. Instead, he gestured to the small arrangement of photographs, letters, and objects on the floor. "This is more than what you see. There is a purpose, a test, and only those who observe carefully can understand it. You must complete it." Clara's mind raced. A test? She had never expected this. She was used to being in control, making decisions, and solving problems. But this was different. This was mysterious, unfamiliar, and exciting. The janitor handed her a small key. "This opens something important. But it is only one step. You must follow the path carefully. Every decision matters." Clara looked at him, confused. "What? Path? What decisions?" He smiled faintly, almost like a teacher watching a student. "You will see. The map is in front of you. Observe, think, act." Her curiosity overpowered her fear. She leaned closer, studying the arrangement on the floor. The lines connecting the photographs now seemed like a maze. Each letter, each symbol, hinted at a choice. Clara realized that this was not just about following instructions. It was about understanding, reading between the lines, and trusting her instincts. She picked up the compass again, tracing a path between the photographs. Each connection seemed simple at first, but soon she noticed patterns, repeated symbols, hidden clues, and subtle hints that led her deeper into the challenge. Her mind worked furiously, piecing together the story that the janitor had laid out. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Clara could not tell. Her focus was absolute. Every step mattered. Every wrong move could mislead her. Yet, with each connection she made, a new understanding emerged. She realized that this challenge was not just about intelligence. It was about patience, observation, and the ability to see beyond the obvious. The janitor remained quiet, only watching, occasionally nodding slightly. It was as if he knew she was capable of more than she believed. Clara felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. The basement, the hum of silence, and the glowing symbols all seemed to push her forward, daring her to succeed. Then came the first real test. A letter marked with a small, intricate symbol required her to make a choice. One path seemed safe, logical, and predictable. The other was uncertain, mysterious, and risky. Clara hesitated. Her natural instinct was to choose safety, control, and certainty, but something in her gut urged her toward the unknown. Taking a deep breath, she chose the risky path. Immediately, a new pattern appeared, revealing connections she had never noticed before. She realized that the challenge was not about avoiding mistakes. It was about courage, intuition, and trusting herself. Her pulse raced as she continued. The task grew harder, more intricate, demanding her full attention. Yet with every step, she felt her mind opening to new possibilities, new ways of thinking. The challenge was transforming her, not just testing her. Finally, she reached the last set of connections. Her hands shook as she placed the final photograph in its correct position. The basement seemed to exhale, the air lighter, almost celebratory. The janitor looked at her with a faint smile, and for the first time, he spoke clearly. "You have completed the first step. You have seen what most never see. But this is only the beginning. The world outside waits for those who understand the hidden paths." Clara's mind was spinning. She had entered the basement as a wealthy, confident woman, and now she was leaving with something far more valuable: insight, awareness, and a new way of seeing the world. The janitor's challenge had not just tested her, it had changed her. And deep down, she knew that the next steps, whatever they were, would push her even further. And as she looked up at him, she understood the truth. Sometimes, the greatest lessons come from the least expected places, and the person who challenges you most might be the one who changes your life forever. Clara stood in the basement, her mind still racing from the hidden challenge the janitor had set for her. Every line, every symbol, every choice she had made now felt alive in her mind, as if the basement itself had changed her. She realized something important. This was not just a test, it was a transformation in motion. The janitor watched her quietly, his calm presence filling the room. Then he spoke, his voice steady but serious. What you have seen is only the beginning. The real test begins when you step outside. Clara's brow furrowed. Outside? What do you mean? He gestured toward the stairs. Life is waiting. The decisions, the challenges, the opportunities, they will not wait for you. You must apply what you have learned here. Clara felt a chill run down her spine. She had spent years building her success, relying on control, strategy, and careful planning. But she knew, deep down, that her life had been limited by her own perspective. What the janitor had shown her was different. It was not just about money, power, or position. It was about understanding, insight, and awareness. She stepped forward, following his instructions, and pulled the folded paper from the wooden box once more. It contained the final connections, the last pattern she had to study. She traced the lines with her fingers, seeing how each choice, each step, led to a consequence she had not noticed before. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from upstairs. Clara jumped. Someone was in the mansion. She could hear footsteps, heavy and deliberate, coming closer. Her heart pounded. The basement, which had felt safe and focused, now seemed exposed and vulnerable. The janitor did not flinch. He moved calmly toward a hidden corner, pulling out a small lockbox from beneath the floorboard. Clara watched, amazed at his calmness. She felt panic rising inside her, but he simply handed her a note from the box. Courage and awareness are tested in the world, not in quiet rooms. What you do next matters more than what you learn here. Clara's mind raced. She realized that the challenge was no longer just about understanding the symbols or patterns in the basement. It was about applying them in real life, in unpredictable circumstances. The footsteps grew louder. She had to act. With the janitor's guidance, she moved quickly but quietly, avoiding detection, and observed the intruder from a safe distance. She noticed small details, the way the person moved, the hesitation in their steps, the weak points in their approach. Every instinct she had developed in the basement now came alive, using the lessons she had learned. She made subtle interventions. She shifted objects, created small diversions, and anticipated the intruder's actions. The basement, once a place of learning, had become a proving ground. Clara felt a strange fear mixed with confidence. She was no longer just wealthy and powerful on paper. She was aware, perceptive, and capable of thinking beyond the obvious. Finally, the intruder left, confused and frustrated. Clara exhaled, her hands shaking but her mind sharp. She turned to the janitor, who had observed everything silently. "You see," he said softly, "understanding without application is useless. Knowledge becomes power only when you use it at the right moment." Clara nodded, a sense of awe filling her. She realized that everything the janitor had done, the arrangement of objects, the hidden patterns, the test had prepared her for this moment. She had faced uncertainty, danger, and pressure, and she had succeeded. Her mind was buzzing with clarity. The world outside was no longer intimidating. She saw it differently now, with awareness and insight she had never known. The janitor had shown her not just hidden talent, but hidden potential within him and within herself. And as she looked at him, calm and composed in the dim light, Clara knew one truth. The basement had been more than a classroom, and the janitor had been more than a guide. He had changed her perspective, reshaped her understanding, and shown her a path she could never have imagined. The turning point was complete. Clara was no longer just a millionaire living in comfort. She was a woman awakened, ready to face life with new eyes and whatever came next. She knew she could handle it. Clara stood in the now quiet mansion, the basement behind her still glowing faintly from the soft light. She held the folded paper, the compass, and the notes in her hands, each one a reminder of the journey she had been through. She took a deep breath, feeling a strange mixture of awe, gratitude, and determination. Her life, as she had known it, had shifted forever. The janitor watched her, calm and composed, as if he had expected this transformation all along. "You've learned more than instructions," he said quietly. "You've learned to see, to act, to understand what most never notice." Clara nodded, her mind replaying everything that had happened, the hidden challenge, the careful patterns, the test in the basement, and the intruder that had unknowingly tested her skills. Each moment had taught her a lesson she would carry forever. But it wasn't just about skill. It was about awareness, perspective, and understanding life beyond appearances. She looked at the janitor, truly seeing him for the first time. Not as a simple worker, but as a guide, a teacher, a person whose hidden talent and quiet strength had reshaped her world. She realized that wealth, success, and comfort were nothing compared to insight and awareness. The lessons he had given her were priceless, far beyond money. The janitor spoke again, his voice low but firm. "The world outside this mansion will challenge you more than any basement ever could. But now you are ready." Clara smiled, a mixture of humility and newfound confidence filling her chest. She had always believed she was in control, that her decisions and plans defined her life. But now she understood something deeper. True control comes from perception, knowledge, and the courage to act when it matters most. She carefully folded the paper and placed it back in the wooden box. Each symbol, line, and note was no longer just a challenge. It was a reminder of the transformation she had experienced. Clara felt a rush of clarity. Her eyes were open in ways they had never been before, and the world seemed full of possibilities she had never considered. For a long moment, the two of them stood in silence. The basement, once a mysterious, almost secretive place, now felt like a sacred space, a place where life lessons had been taught not through words, but through experience. Clara realized that this encounter had given her something priceless, understanding the hidden potential in people and in herself. Finally, she turned toward the stairs, ready to step back into her life, but it would not be the same life she had before. Every choice, every interaction, every decision she made from now on would carry the wisdom she had gained. She felt lighter, stronger, and more aware than ever. The janitor nodded once, as if confirming her readiness. Then he returned to his quiet work, humming softly. Clara knew she would never forget him or the lessons he had shared. He had changed her life, not by force, but by showing her the possibilities hidden in plain sight. As she walked out of the basement and into the grand hallway, the world outside the mansion suddenly seemed brighter, sharper, and more alive. She understood that life was not just about comfort or success. It was about awareness, courage, and the willingness to see beyond the obvious. Clara smiled to herself, a sense of gratitude and excitement filling her heart. The encounter with the janitor had awakened something inside her, a sense of purpose, understanding, and strength she had never known. She realized that sometimes, the people you least expect, the ones you overlook, can hold the power to change your life forever. And as she stepped outside into the cool night air, Clara felt it fully. Her life had been transformed, her perspective reshaped, and her future was no longer defined by wealth or status, but by insight, courage, and the hidden lessons she had learned from a man she would never forget. The basement, the patterns, the challenge, and the janitor, they had done more than teach her. They had changed her forever. Clara smiled, knowing one truth above all: the real treasures in life are hidden in unexpected places, and sometimes, the person you least expect can open your eyes to a world you never imagined. Her life had changed forever, and this time, for the better.